Hey everybody, and welcome back to the WRESTLEDUDE YouTube channel. As here today, we are here with another episode of What's Up Next, the fantasy booking video, where I take one of the newest call-ups to the main roster of either Raw or SmackDown, and I try to book their first couple of months before we get started. A little bit of housekeeping. If you would like to see more of this series, I'll link it at the end of this video, where I fantasy booked Shayna Baszler and her debut on the main roster. And then I also did, years ago, I fantasy booked all the main roster debuts of the call-up 5. That was Heavy Machinery, it was EC3, Lacey Evans, Nikki Cross. I did all of them. So if you guys want to check out those videos, they will be at the end of this video. I also fantasy booked how Retribution should break up. Yes, and that was only like a few weeks after they debuted on the main roster, and I was already like, you know what, I'm just going to fantasy book how they should break this up, because all of them are much better separately. Now, obviously, as today's video pertains to itself, obviously you guys can probably tell I'm a big fan of Rhea Ripley, and her coming, as of this recording, all we've seen of her coming to main roster is a promo package saying she's coming soon to Monday Night Raw, which could mean she's coming in a few weeks. It could mean she's not debuting until after WrestleMania. But I think I have a really good idea of how to, take the rocket, strap it to her, and make her a big star on Monday Night Raw, especially in the women's division, which really needs it, which becomes very apparent somewhere in this video if you guys are paying attention. So here we go. This is going to be my fantasy booking video. Before we get started, leave a thumbs up and comment down below what you guys think. Would you guys like to see all this stuff happen with Rhea Ripley? Do you think WWE would do a better job with it? Let me know in the comment section below. And I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to try and use clips from WWE 2K19, because 2K20 is garbage. I'm going to be trying to use clips from that to kind of give you a visual representation of what's going to happen in my mind. So, hope you guys enjoy. Let's get started. So it all starts with Rhea Ripley versus Asuka at Elimination Chamber for the Raw Women's Championship. Obviously, Lacey Evans had to pull out because her husband couldn't. And so Asuka is left without a challenger for the Raw Women's Championship at Elimination Chamber. She comes out and she challenges anybody from the back to come out and challenge her for the Raw Women's Championship. And it ends up being Rhea Ripley, who we have not seen since the Royal Rumble. Match goes on. It's incredible, obviously, as you could probably guess. It's Rhea Ripley and Asuka, two incredible wrestlers. And then towards the end of the matchup, Charlotte comes out to help Asuka by distracting Rhea Ripley. No music plays, but she still comes out and badmouths Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley kind of gets distracted, and Asuka takes advantage by kicking her in the head and pinning her. She retains the Raw Women's Championship, but she does not approve of Charlotte's help. Now, the next night on Monday Night Raw, you still got the same tag team match that we ended up getting between Charlotte and Asuka versus Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. Charlotte gets distracted by Ric Flair. The same moment backstage where Charlotte tells Ric Flair to go home, but then, after that moment's over, we get Rhea Ripley attacking Charlotte, and the fight is broken up by some WWE officials, and it's also broken up by Asuka, who has to pull the two women apart because, obviously, she respects Rhea Ripley, but she's also, I guess, quote-unquote, friends with Charlotte. Now, next week, Rhea Ripley interrupts a women's match. Doesn't really matter which one. The only thing that matters is she goes in and she attacks both women, lays both of them out, and she grabs the microphone and tells Asuka that Charlotte is only using her just to get gold like she did at TLC. Charlotte could have come back at any point, but she picked to come back at the time where she would get a title opportunity with the tag team titles with Asuka at TLC. Now, Asuka comes out after hearing that and says that she doesn't need Charlotte to prove that she's the best Raw Women's Champion. Charlotte then comes out and says Rhea's just jealous that she couldn't beat Asuka at Elimination Chamber and that she couldn't beat her at WrestleMania last year. This kicks off a giant brawl where Rhea Ripley targets Charlotte. Asuka tries to separate them and Rhea attacks Asuka too. Charlotte and Asuka roll out of the ring after Rhea takes advantage of both of them and then picks up the mic and says, "I'll fight both of you for that title." Now, Adam Pearce comes out and makes a triple threat match for Fastlane: Charlotte versus Asuka versus Rhea Ripley for the Raw Women's Championship. Now, the match at Fastlane starts off with Asuka and Charlotte targeting Rhea Ripley, double teaming her, attacking her, trying to make sure that she's unable to get into the matchup, so it's just down between Charlotte and Asuka. Rhea's able to fight them off and separate both of them and send one of them outside the ring so she can focus in on one at a time. Now, during the matchup, whenever Charlotte is getting pinned by Rhea, Asuka breaks it up. But when Rhea is pinning Asuka, Charlotte's nearby, and she watches and waits to see if Asuka will kick out. Because, honestly, she doesn't care if Rhea wins, because Charlotte is confident that she can just beat Rhea easily again in the future and win the championship off of her instead of winning it off of Asuka. The ending to the match sees Rhea hit the Riptide on Charlotte, but Charlotte rolls out of the ring. Asuka locks in the Asuka lock, and it looks like Rhea is about to tap out before she powers out and hits the Riptide on Asuka, but before she can make the pin, Charlotte rolls back into the ring, tosses Rhea out, and steals the pin and the championship by pinning Asuka. So Asuka loses the Raw Women's Championship because of Charlotte using Rhea's own move against her and wins the Raw Women's Championship. Now, after the matchup, Asuka gets to her feet and is a bit shocked that Charlotte would have pinned her, but she nods her head and points to the WrestleMania sign, basically saying, now we can have our rematch. Asuka goes to shake Charlotte's hand, and Charlotte attacks her. Charlotte then destroys Asuka around the ring, and all the while, Rhea is like walking up the ramp, she's grabbing at the back of her head or whatever might have gotten hurt, looking back and shouting, "I told you so," directed at Asuka. She doesn't go to help her because obviously Rhea told Asuka this would happen, so now Asuka's got to line it. This doesn't really make Rhea a babyface or a heel, it just means she told her so. Like, Asuka should have listened. Like, she told her that Charlotte was only in it for the title, and now she told her so. So, they do a big injury angle to write Asuka off of TV, because obviously, recently, they haven't really been treating Asuka the best as the Raw Women's Champion, and I feel like her having a break would definitely help her, especially for what I have planned for her return. So yeah, writing her off here for a few weeks would definitely help her out. It could also bring the story down to just Rhea Ripley and Charlotte. If you have Asuka still around after this attack, it could kind of make things a little wishy-washy and confusing. Plus, we don't want to have another triple threat at WrestleMania. The next night on Raw, Charlotte explains that she beat Asuka before she was out with injury on Raw, meaning Asuka owed her a title match, and now Charlotte is where she belongs as the queen of the women's division. She says she attacked Asuka because she doesn't want another match with her at WrestleMania, because we've already seen the result of that already. Rhea then comes out, and Charlotte tells her she's not getting a title match either, because we've seen that match too, and Rhea would lose again. Later that night, we have a number one contenders match for the Raw Women's Championship between Lana and Shayna Baszler. Now, you're probably wondering, why the heck is Lana and why the heck is Shayna Baszler both fighting for number one contendership to the Raw Women's Championship? Well, both of them do have story sense, because obviously before Charlotte got involved, Lana was the tag team partner for Asuka, and they put over how her and Asuka are very good friends. So obviously Lana would want to get a shot at Charlotte after attacking and putting her best friend Asuka on the shelf for a while. Shayna Baszler makes sense because Shayna Baszler still has a grudge against Charlotte Flair for two reasons. Number one, she beat her and Nia Jax at TLC to win the tag team titles off of them. And then you have Charlotte Flair winning the Royal Rumble match a few years before by eliminating Shayna Baszler. So technically there's some story sense there. I don't know how they would be both viable for number one contendership, but it's WWE. They don't really go by a number one contender system like other companies do. So, I mean, they could kind of put anybody. But, yeah, this is kind of the best I could do with the story sense. So, anyways, the match goes on, and during the matchup, the referee gets knocked down, and during this period, Rhea Ripley comes out to destroy both of them, takes out Lana with a single big boot, and after a stare down with Shayna Baszler, tying back to their time in NXT, she hits her with the Riptide. Referee gets up and sees that Rhea's standing over both of them. He rings the bell. the match is awarded a no contest. So there is no official winner to the match. Rhea Ripley grabs a chair and sits in the ring and says, "I'm not leaving until I get my title shot." Charlotte and Adam Pearce come out onto the stage, and Charlotte says she had a feeling that Rhea would do something like this, and she gave Adam Pearce an idea. Next week, you'll have your chance if you can win a Battle Royal. The following Raw, before the Battle Royal match, we get little backstage parts of Charlotte chatting with the heels in the Battle Royal, basically telling them to target Rhea Ripley. And then during the Battle Royal, Rhea obviously gets attacked by all the heels, but she's able to fight them off as Lana and Naomi are targeting Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, so on and so forth. So we have all of the women kind of paired off. You know, the tag team are fighting the tag team, the single stars are fighting the single stars. Rhea Ripley's basically on her own. The match comes down to Rhea, Shayna, and Nia Jax. Nia and Shayna start arguing about who's going to win and who's going to be the one to face Charlotte at WrestleMania, and Rhea tries to take advantage. Charlotte starts to get nervous and goes into the ring to stop Rhea Ripley from winning, but then Rhea takes Charlotte out with a single big boot. Shayna and Nia then try to toss each other over the top rope. They're kind of leaning against the ropes, trying to shove each other over. Rhea then runs over and knocks both of them out, winning the match, becoming the new #1 contender, and facing Charlotte at WrestleMania. And the following weeks leading into WrestleMania, we see Rhea Ripley competing in these quick squash matches, and every week she's winning a different way. One week she wins with the Riptide. One week she wins with just a big boot. One week she wins with a submission hold. And all the while, Charlotte is watching from ringside, and each and every week she gets more and more nervous to the point where she doesn't even stay around to watch the entire matchup because she's just getting so worried that Rhea Ripley just might be ready for WrestleMania. And on the go-home show to WrestleMania, you have the contract signing between Rhea Ripley and Charlotte. They come out, they sign the contract, they badmouth each other, and Rhea says, basically, "I was lost for a long time after you beat me, but after seeing your stupid, smug face again, I remembered exactly who the hell I am. I'm Rhea Ripley, I'm your worst nightmare, and I'm the woman that's gonna beat you at WrestleMania." And Charlotte tries to say something back, but then Rhea attacks her and puts her through the table with a riptide, which will be a pretty awesome visual. And then Rhea stands over Charlotte heading into WrestleMania. And WrestleMania comes around. It's Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley 2 years in a row. And they have a great back and forth match with a lot of callbacks to the first one, with Charlotte working over the leg, but Rhea scouting at this time. So she targets Charlotte's legs and arm. And Charlotte tries to go for the figure eight during one point in the match, but her arm is so hurt that she can't bridge up for it. Rhea Ripley ends up beating Charlotte Flair with a riptide. It can be a regular riptide, or if you want to get fancy with it, it can be a riptide from off the top rope. Honestly, I would like to see a double riptide, one off the top rope and then one to the mat. Maybe like a quick roll through thing, kind of like how Seth Rollins does his like superplex into the Falcon Arrow. I don't know, I feel like that could be fun. But either way, we have a new Raw Women's Champion in the form of Rhea Ripley heading into the next night, the Raw after Mania. So, the next night on Raw, the Raw after WrestleMania, Rhea Ripley comes out for her congratulations speech and says she's ready for anything that comes her way and she will challenge anybody. And out comes 𝗕𝗢𝗢. And if you guys don't know who 𝗕𝗢𝗢 is, this is 𝗕𝗢𝗢. This was Asuka before WWE. This is a dangerous threat. And she comes out wearing her new face paint and the type of aggression and fear that she showed in NXT and in Japan. Charlotte then comes out and tries to interject herself into the title scene, but then Asuka takes her out with the mist to the face, writing Charlotte off of TV for a couple of weeks with some sort of eye injury. You can say she got some sort of eye infection. Just something to get Charlotte out of the way so we can just have this post-WrestleMania feud between this newly 𝗕𝗢𝗢ized Asuka and the new Raw Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley. So, that is how I would fantasy book Rhea Ripley's first few months on WWE's main roster of Monday Night Raw. You have her involved in this big feud with Charlotte Flair, and then you end up giving her this big, long feud with Asuka with this newly found aggression. and Charlotte's right back where she should belong as one of the best heels in the business, and losing and putting over Rhea Ripley. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you guys think this is a good story? And did the clips from the 2K games help out with the visualization? Was it a bit jarring? Let me know in the comment section below. And like I said, if you guys want to check out more videos where I fantasy book thing, they're going to pop up for you here in a second.